The story begins with a live broadcast of the Advanced Challenge tournament called Tower of God. The guy passed the boss in an online game while people around him cheered and admired him. He pressed the keyboard and mouse with force and speed, using a combo of skills. Everyone was worried when they noticed the decrease in his health. The hero dealt attacks one after another, dealing him 1,000,000 damage. He kept hitting the boss with his sword. The monster strongly doubted that it could be defeated. But the hero swung again, destroying all the gods in his path. And with one blow, he destroyed the last god. Player Subai was congratulated for clearing the 999th floor of the Tower of God. Everyone at the back loudly cheered for his passing. He was also happy because he was the first player to pass through all the floors. Suddenly something happened, and he suddenly fell back. The crowd caught him as he fell into a chair, not understanding what had happened. Everyone was going to call an ambulance. People were horrified to find that Subai had died on the spot after passing 999 floors. Subai heard the mysterious voice until he felt the body as if he was dead. There was a presentation of the discussion of the Tower of God, which 10 years ago completely changed the structure of the Blue Star and replaced humanity with the era of technology. And now the world was filled with terrifying monsters, demons, and other various races. Although the situation is dangerous, it also grants people endless opportunities for completing each floor. But to date, humanity has only cleared 99 floors. Now, thanks to these resources, humanity is developing 10 times faster, improving technology and quality of life. The teacher brought the lesson to a key point, going to show the students the Tower of God. Subai watched as everyone raised their hands. The guys ahead started dreaming about their victories until Subai couldn't figure out where he was. After all, he had just died. Classmates laughed at each other, wanting to get certain classes and skills. On the other hand, everyone was excited in front of the Tower of God. The country was called Yang Nation, where the entry requirements for the Tower of God are very strict. You need to be of legal age and complete special training at the school. All of them took 10 years of training to get there. Suddenly, it dawned on Subai that he was caught in a game that he was playing. He couldn't believe that he was able to be reborn into a world with the Tower of God still being stripped down to just the 99th floor. He realized that this might be the prime of his life if he cleaned out the 999 floors here as well. The teacher tapped the table with her pointer to silence the classroom. She said that soon everyone will be given a teleportation crystal, and it was necessary to break the crystal to complete the transfer. She also wished them good luck and safe travel. Subai grabbed the crystal, preparing to clear the tower again, and with one squeeze, it broke the crystal. He was welcomed to the Tower of God while processing data, but suddenly there was an error that found the account of his pre-registration. He suddenly thought that he would be allowed to log in from the previous account, but the system only erased his old data due to a mismatch of information. Finally, the sweep was completed and he was welcomed to the Tower of God. The players appeared, and Subai found himself in a familiar place where beginners buy equipment and supplies before entering the tower. The system notified him of an unread message. He was unexpectedly given a reward for completing 999 floors in the form of the Hours of All Things. Subai laughed with joy as he noticed that this was the greatest artifact. In the Tower of God, all items were ranked by quality, from white, raw, to orange, legendary. The Clock of All Things was the greatest artifact with perfect condition. They gave him the ability to level up any item by 100% for only a small price. Subai didn't understand why he would need such an item as a beginner, but he decided to take a walk around the city first. The city of novices was very familiar to him, and he could smell the beer, remembering the lady from the tavern. The system gave him a hint that the rookie zone had been cleared, and so all players in the country would receive the rookie blessing, a 10% increase in stats. Everyone in the tavern was cheering for Sword God Lin, who had given them an improvement and an advantage over other countries. While Subai was checking the stats, he remembered that the game is now equal to real life, and you can't die here. He noticed something strange. Now, thanks to the boost in his stats, it helped beginners when changing job. The Watch of All Things found him with leveling equipment, a short sword and armor. He didn't expect that even white-level equipment could be upgraded. Subai was shocked that the clock was working properly and gave him a 100% chance of improvement. Then, he decided to immediately upgrade his equipment to the legendary level. Then he remembered that he didn't have any coin, and then he decided to focus on making money. Meanwhile, at the Tower of God, newcomers approached it, and from the start, they were protected for a week, and during this period, they need to change their class, otherwise they will be excluded. The main goal of newcomers is to upgrade their level and get a class change crystal, and in a year, countless newcomers are eliminated. Subai sat down at the tavern's bar, offering the manager a couple of cocktail recipes. They even interested her a little. He told her about the rare beast blood wine, which she didn't believe, but he decided to prove it. She held out her pen to him, threatening him if he lied to her. He demanded 5 gold coins from her. She had already prepared a glass, but she reminded him that he would be punished for lying. Subai considered this as a basic recipe, and in his mind he kept even rarer and more valuable recipes. 5 minutes later, the manager made a drink according to his recipe, which turned into a color like a red crystal. All the customers begged her to sell this drink, giving more and more money. But the manager freaked out, not going to sell it to anyone. She immediately took the glass and downed it in one gulp. Subai asked for her opinion. The girl immediately got a little drunk, intending to take all the recipes from him. He decided to offer her 5 recipes at a discount of 20 gold coins. 1 gold coin was equal to 100 silvers, or 10,000 coppers. He now had enough money to upgrade his equipment. The manager did not want to leave him without full payment and offered him a dagger as a gift. It was of excellent quality and had increased damage. Subai thanked her for the deal and left for business. When he left the tavern, he immediately decided to start upgrading his weapons. The price for speeding up was 180 silvers, and the price for skipping was 720. Subai knew that upgrading was worth the money, as he needed to change classes in a limited amount of time. Therefore, he strongly pressed for improvement. He used the upgrade pass to boost the weapon's stat. Now, with such weapons, he can easily clear the first floor of the tower, so he resolutely headed in her direction. Meanwhile, a scandal has formed on the edge of the rookie zone. They were all fighting for the same rabbit. Subai didn't expect that someone would want to kill such a cute creature. Moreover, the rabbit had very little experience. Suddenly, the girl was trying to stop him from leaving the danger zone because it was not protected. Subai didn't understand what she was talking about. And at that moment, a huge silhouette appeared above him. It was a level 1 flying snake. The girl screamed, trying to warn him, but he took the dagger in his hands and cut it down in one move. The newcomers couldn't believe that he had easily destroyed the flying serpent. They ran up to him, not understanding how he did it. And they tried to talk him out of going there, or they'd all die. Subai flipped a copper coin on his finger. He walked on, leaving them behind. They were horrified by his carelessness and expected him to die within 5 minutes. Subai looked around, noticing that there were significantly fewer players here. A heart-rending sound came from behind. He immediately picked up his dagger, piercing the flying serpent's head. After destroying his body, a gold coin fell out of it. It was similar to the Tower of God, but leveling up and rewards were very tight. So he decided to kill a couple more monsters to finish clearing the first level as soon as possible. At that moment, several more snakes appeared above him. He cut them down one by one, and a gold coin fell out of each of them. The system issued an announcement about the arrival of the 10th season of the Tower of God, which caused the records of the first kills of newcomers to be erased, and for the first kills they will receive luxurious reward. Then Subai decided to level up urgently, and since he had the advantage of a watch, he couldn't allow others to make the first kills. The newcomers in their zone were discussing who would be able to make the first kills. They were discussing the 3 great families that would most likely take the first murders in the eastern region. One of the guys saw the eldest daughter of the Lin family, who was dressed in a legendary costume, showing off her wealth. The price of such a suit was over 1 million, and their family had high-level bodyguards. They decided to drop the subject and continue the rabbit hunt. At this moment, Subai was cutting down the snakes one by one. Finally, the system congratulated him on his 2nd-level promotion, which earned him a black iron chest, as well as 2 stats boost points. Subai was delighted with such rewards, immediately looking around. He noticed that there was now a ranking system where people had already reached the 3rd level. He had only been slowed down by studying the clock at the beginning of the game, but now he needed to prove himself. Then he decided to open the chest. Inside was a basic level armor and 30 copper. He was now faced with a choice of what to upgrade, weapons or armor. The system gave a hint that the boss in the novice zone does not have a high-level attack, so it is better to upgrade the weapon. He decided to upgrade it once for 50 coppers. He now received +1 damage bonus. The upgrade could only be used 8 times, so he started to level it up to the maximum. The delicate dagger in his hands glinted orange. It was now of remarkable quality. He noticed that the first improvements increased the basic parameters, and the remaining ones increased the attack power. His total attack power now reached 100 points. He was convinced that the Clock of All Things was truly a legendary item, and now he is already ready to go to the first floor of the Tower of God. The newbie zone boss only respawns 10 times, and those who kill it are given the right to enter the Tower of God. Only a limited number of participants can enter on the first day, and the participant with the first kill is likely to be among them. He reached the rocks, assuming this was the right place. Suddenly, he heard the sounds of battle. Then he realized that someone had come in before him, making a dash for the first kill. The goblins were already being attacked by the first team. He spied on them, noticing that they had at least a remarkable level of weapons, which hinted at their wealth. Ling Yu-chan of the Ling family, who was wearing a complete rare-level outfit, appeared in front of his eyes. She immediately gave all the teams the attack orders, and her warriors went into battle. The guy next to him knew that the first floor wasn't far off at this rate. But the girl considered two other families, Lee and Bo, who might have taken a different road and gotten there faster. Suddenly, she heard something. So I went behind a rock, trying to find the source of the sound. Subai appeared from behind a rock. Everyone noticed his second level, not understanding which team he was on. Subai admitted that he wasn't a member of the team and pretended that he was just passing by. She noticed that it took her entire team, with their wonderful uniforms, half an hour to get through the forest, and he couldn't have come here alone. He was trying to get away from them. But Zhang Fei guessed from behind that the stranger was trying to throw the rest of the monsters at them in order to get to the boss first. Yu-chan ordered 2 battalions to stop him by any means necessary. She didn't want to see the boss being taken away right in front of her. The 2 battalions pounced on the lone Subai. He took out his dagger from his inventory, looking at them with a disappointed look. Zhang Fei grinned, reminding him that he was only level 2. The warriors pounced on him, wanting to destroy him on command. An arrow suddenly flew at Subai, but he parried it with his dagger. Yu-chan was surprised to see this. Nearby warriors leaped at him. Subai grinned, hinting that they wouldn't be able to finish him off. He took off, slashing the dagger between them. 2 warriors were cut in half and screamed in pain. The boy's mouth dropped open in shock. The warriors couldn't believe that he had crushed them in just a second with only the 2nd level. Subai was confident that they weren't worthy of killing him yet. He dealt each warrior a critical hit, one by one. They were losing their men, so they decided to retreat immediately. Zhang Fei began to threaten their status. But Subai didn't care who they were, as long as they were in the way. Zhang Fei was speechless. At this moment, Yu-chan covered his mouth. He hadn't expected her to come here. And suddenly, she offered Subai a deal. He was very interested in this, and he wanted to know the details. Yu-chan realized that he had come here alone, and looking at his battle, he was definitely unusual. She first offered to hear its price. Zhang Fei didn't understand why they were talking to an ordinary player, but she covered his mouth again. Subai guaranteed that there would be no new attacks, but in return, they would have to pay a defense tax, 1 silver coin per person. Zhang Fei was shocked by its price, but that was the price for their lives. Yu-chan threw him 3 gold coins, where the rest is a pledge of friendship, and asked him to add friends. Subai would charge another coin for such a request. The girl agreed with him with a smile. Zhang Fei had already turned red with anger as the impudent man had used them, and Yu-chan had suggested a joint boss hunt and first kill. Subai realized that the first boss fight was very important to her, but Subai had another condition, and ordered to take the role of the head of the group. Zhang Fei couldn't contain his rage. After all, they were all elites, and he wasn't qualified to become the head at all. Subai set his own conditions so that he wouldn't slow down his own progress. Zhang Fei tried to persuade the girl not to give the stranger the lead, to which Yu-chan agreed, flatly refusing. Subai immediately turned around and left. Yu-chan tried to change his mind by offering him 100 gold pieces, but the reward for the first kill was more than 100 gold, so he moved on. Zhang Fei was shocked with his self-esteem, unwilling to give him the world record for the first kill. Subai sat down on a rock. He went into the inventory, intending to upgrade his equipment. And for improving the basic armor, they asked for 1,650 silver coins for skipping the upgrade. He was extremely impatient and decided to choose a pass. Now his armor has significantly improved, and his health skyrocketed by 300 points, and now he could confidently fight the boss. In the tavern, the old players were discussing active newcomers that they should kill the boss soon. The tavern manager wondered if their Yang nation would be able to take the first kill in the Tower of God. Last year, their guild had the first kill record right up to the 9th floor, but on the last floor, they were overtaken by a powerful newcomer from another nation. Everyone was waiting for an SSS-ranked rookie to appear in their nation as well. Subai deftly jumped through the Goblin Mountains to collect the first kill. At that moment, he saw the boss battle and smelled the energy concealment powder. This powder hid the smell from normal monsters, but it doesn't work if the monster's level exceeds the user. Subai immediately recognized the cheap version of the powder, but it was still worth millions. Fortunately, the warriors have not yet reached the boss, fighting with his pawn. So Subai joined the battle, fighting the goblins. The squad noticed that a newcomer had arrived and offered to stop him. But Wang Zixi, the son of the Wang family, one of the 3 great families from the east, decided to leave him. With them was Li Yueran, the daughter of the Li family, one of the 3 great families from the east, who thought he was a fool to try too much. But suddenly, they noticed that the newcomer was already going to climb the boss. Subai charged straight towards the huge monster. I threw a dagger at him, which landed in his chest like a needle. The boss, the Goblin King, stood up from his throne. The warriors didn't know what to do, but the head didn't consider him a threat because the boss was going to crush him in a second. The boss started to hit Subai, but he dodged it deftly. It growled loudly, opening its mouth. Subai rushed over to kill him and dealt 1 critical hit, taking down 100 hit points posthumously. The boss fell to his knees as Subai landed on the ground, but the boss kept fighting, hitting him with his huge bat. Subai struck again, taking down 100 hit points. He knew his weak points: chest, lower back, and eye. The squad was starting to worry that he was able to dodge the boss punches. Zixi couldn't believe that a rookie could have such a dodge skill and even deal critical hits. Yuezhan knew that even the pros didn't know this technique. Subai threw blow after blow, leaving the boss with almost no health. Yuezhan offered to join the battle. Zixi suggested not to rush, considering that a rookie wouldn't be able to kill the boss in a second. He decided to wait, intending to keep watch, and when it fell, attack. Subai's victory over him was equal to an ordinary matter. The boss tried to hit him and growled in anger, but he deftly dodged. He landed another critical hit while still making jokes. The boss lost some more health and screamed, and a bright light began to radiate from it. Subai didn't understand what he was doing. The goblins had once again arrived in the square and were running towards the warrior. They couldn't figure out how it happened, as they had almost cleared the entire area. Yurin realized that it was the boss who had called for their help. Zixi gave the order to break through their encirclement. Everyone followed his order, trying to hold their formation. Yurin realized that the endless waves were the work of that jerk. Zixi ordered everyone to focus to clear the path. Everyone tried to support their head so that he would reach the boss. The warriors kept telling him to hold on to keep him going. He ran towards the boss as he watched Subai fight the boss. He estimated its strength, but it won't be able to finish off the remaining HP, so they should win. Subai didn't expect him to step in at the last moment. He noticed that he was holding a medium-ranked scroll that indicated his wealth. Zixi opened the scroll, ordering everyone to perish. A medium-ranked magic, fire explosion technique, flew out from the scroll, which caused the boss and Subai to have a huge explosion. His squad praised their leader for finishing the job. But suddenly he noticed that he does not receive a system notification. And at that moment, the notification of the Goblin King's victory by the player Subai came. The squad lowered their hands, realizing that they couldn't kill the boss. When the smoke cleared, Subai was standing on top of the monster's huge carcass. Zixi shouted in rage, not understanding how he had defeated the boss himself. Subai realized that they didn't even know about the summation of fatal wounds, because he was hitting weak points, so he accumulated damage and finished off everything in one hit. He remembered that he could have killed it with another 20% health, but decided to wait for the Zixi scroll to be spent. Subai pretended to feel sorry for the waste of his scroll. Subai only wanted to teach the arrogant nobles a lesson and decided to leave. In the tavern, everyone received an alert about the first boss kill in the Eastern Zone. Everyone was curious about who Subai was and couldn't think of any families with that surname. For the first time ever, the first kill wasn't given to people from 3 families. Everyone assumed that he was the hidden heir of a strong clan. They didn't understand how Subai, being an orphan, was able to defeat the boss. The squad stared at the alert in silence, not understanding how this was possible. Yurin ordered everyone to head to the gathering. Zixi clenched his teeth in anger, brimming with anger. They couldn't do anything else but rest and wait for the boss to be reborn in an hour. Suddenly, a portal appeared in front of them with Yuchan, who heard his words about intercepting the second boss. But I haven't given him permission yet. The system gave Subai the right to challenge in the Tower of God and 11 silver chests. He was congratulated that he got into the first 100 players of the entire server, for which he was presented with another chest. He decided to open the chests before entering the tower. He got rare boots with coins and 10 small elixirs of experience. These things pleased him. The boots could increase his speed by 30% once every 10 minutes. He remembered that after the first kill, the Season 10 Tower of God trial ratings were open. In the ranking, he was in the 98th place. It had only been 2 hours since leaving the novice village, but the other zones had finished more than an hour ago. He assumed they were all donators. He immediately drank a small experience potion, which gave him an hour's experience bonus. And he went to the portal, going to the first floor of the Tower of God. Through the portal, he came out on the first floor of the tower. He found out that this will be the dungeon Dark. All the initial dungeons in the tower are diverse and full of loot, and the difficulty will increase gradually. Dark was considered a floor of medium difficulty, but it is difficult for beginners. He stood on one of the flagstones. He started stomping up the stairs, which were barely visible. It was the same path of the maze that he knew by heart. But a monster's hand came out of one of the tiles. A pentagram appeared in front of him, and a terrifying monster emerged from it. He immediately recognized the ogre ghoul. I immediately looked up the information. The monster was level 3, but immortal. He knew that ghouls were famous for their agility and strength, so he had to be careful, and immediately made a dodge, dealing a critical hit, killing him immediately. But after the first one, a second ghoul popped up. He also cut it down in a single blow. The extra experience poured in a mountain, which raised him to the 3rd level, and gave him 2 levels of stats. Thanks to the Demon King's experience, he quickly leveled up. He went on, but the tiles glowed with different colors. Both tiles led to rooms of varying difficulty, where the red room was difficult and the blue room was easy. He decided to stand on the red line, wanting to get a more generous reward, and he appeared in the corridor in front of the huge doors to the level. Meanwhile, in the Yan Kingdom, at the guild head of the Chu dynasty, the secretary reported to the president that Mr. Zhengxiai's business was going well. President Zhu Wang did not consider his progress as nothing because the winner can only be considered the one who takes the prize. The secretary was sure that the title of king would go to Mr. Jian Xiang. The president loudly called her name. The true king, in his opinion, was one who had passed the sea, fire, and copper pipes, and not the usual rank. But he hoped he wouldn't be disappointed. At this time, Subai was scattering monsters on the floor. Finally, he defeated all the monsters. He only lacked 1,500 experience points until the 4th level because the tower is generous with rewards. The bodies of the monsters started disappearing as he completed the sweep. But suddenly the plates doubled. The gray slab signified a secret room, something he hadn't expected, so I decided to go there. When he first got up, he was very surprised. The entire floor was covered with a bunch of man-eating ghouls that had already pounced on him. They all turned on him at once. Subai quickly began to cut them open in midair. After half an hour, he finally dealt with them. He reached the 4th level and gained 2 more stat points. The floor was filled with a mound of corpses as he enjoyed the promotion. He was given a bonus for a perfect fight in the secret room. Its stats were already balanced, so it was time to kill the boss. There were already 2 people on the leaderboard, where Zhengxiai's name was already in first place for the 2nd time. Subai stepped onto the red slab. I went down the hall to my boss. As he passed, the huge door opened. He got to the 1st floor of the boss room. A huge bull monster was sitting on the throne. No sooner had he entered than man-eating ghouls attacked him from all sides. He didn't have time, so he decided to deal with them quickly. He started slashing at them with his dagger, destroying them all in one hit, and immediately rushed to the boss. The monster was a level 5 minotaur. Subai was surprised by his coolness. He threw a dagger at him, but the boss batted it away with his paw, and he took out his huge axe, getting up from the throne. He shouted, announcing the start of the battle. Flying monsters came to his aid. Subai was doubly interested in fighting him. He ran through them using charged strike, and flew up to the boss, striking. He hit it with a prick, piercing it with a dagger and taking out 150 HP. While he was beating the boss, flying creatures were attacking him from behind. But Subai knew what they were trying to do, and immediately cut them in a few moves, hitting the boss. The minotaur swung its huge paw, and he struck, summoning the pentagram beneath him. The bull lowered its horned head, and it tore violently, covered in flames. Subai didn't expect him to use this skill so soon. The minotaur sprinted towards him at full speed, but Subai deftly dodged his punch, causing the bull to go into shock. He decided to remind him of who he was by swinging the dagger. At that moment, he slashed him across the eye. While he was beating him, more pawns flew up from behind. He only killed them in one hit for the sake of experience. The system congratulated him on getting the 5th level. I decided to activate the speed boost. His shoes glowed with a bright blue light. He began to run around the bull like a bolt of lightning. Out of rage, the minotaur screamed. Because of this, he activated berserk mode. Then Subai finally decided to move on to the main topic. Bull was annoyed that he couldn't see the player, but Subai was already behind him and called out to him. The berserk effect had already ended when the bull charged at him. While the bull was looking around, Subai was already behind. I stabbed him right in the chest. The minotaur started to bleed and quickly lost health points because it just spent berserk. Subai stabbed the dagger once more so as not to waste time. He dealt him a critical blow, which made the bull cry out in pain, and he fell to the ground defeated. The system congratulated him on defeating the Minotaur boss, and the 1st floor of the tower was cleared. The 2nd floor of the Tower of God was now revealed to him. He was the first player to kill the 1st floor boss, and was rewarded with a gold chest, an experience ball, and gold coin. And the sweep time was almost an hour, which was a broken record for an additional reward. Subai was glad that he came out with a good result, even though he had previously closed the floor in half an hour due to saving time. Suddenly, a massive explosion occurred. One of the players brought along his father's perfect weapon, the 10,000 Calamity Annihilation Cannon, which had a killing power. He was about to launch a bombardment, but suddenly I received a notification about the first victory over the boss. He held his head, not understanding how it was possible to complete everything in just an hour, considering it as cheats. Everyone around them was discussing Subai after noticing how he had risen in the rookie ranking. They didn't expect that there would be such a strong newcomer to the Yang Nation. The president couldn't believe his quick victory. The receptionist tried to cheer up Mr. Zhou, who was also close to breaking the record. But the man screamed in rage, mistaking it for a dry defeat. The girl reminded about the presence of 9 more floors, thanks to which he can catch up with his title. He ordered her to find the identity that broke the record. Yuchan wrote to Subai in private messages, not expecting him to break records, and decided to invite him to work together in her family. She realized that she had greatly underestimated this guy. Gold chests appear for the first kill of a boss or event, so it should drop the perfect equipment that suits its status. He opened the golden chest. Incredible bright rays meant perfect equipment, but all that came out of the chest was the perfect weapon, a golden hoe. He knew that this thing would be very useful in the game, so it wasn't a bad drop. Also, he got a beginner experience ball, which will give him the next level. Subai immediately popped the balloon that gave him 60,000 experience points. The system congratulated him on his 6th level. Now he decided to improve his equipment. He needed 3,000 silver coins to pass the upgrade of his shoes. Then he chose the latter, not considering money a problem. He successfully upgraded the shoes with a pass. This greatly increased his stats, so he decided to repeat. He made several more upgrades, which increased his strength time after time. His stats were quite high now. He had an entrance ticket in his hand. With it, he could travel to the next floor of the tower. So he entered the portal, intending to fulfill his goal of clearing the first 10 floors in just a day. The portal took him to the Naka Desert. The system warned him about the minute-long countdown until the first monsters appeared. The rules of the desert were to defeat 10 waves of monsters, but Subai wanted to speed up the process. Sounds came from behind him. It was a lizard monster that came out of one of the portals. It was a level 3 sawtooth lizard. A whole pack of them came at him. Subai noticed their slow speed, making it difficult for him to pick up the record of the first kill. So he decided to attack first to shorten the time. He started slaughtering the lizards one by one, and he dealt them all a critical blow, thanks to which he quickly cleared the first wave. A minute later, the monster portals reappeared. But it was very slow for Subai, so he activated his shoes to accelerate. At super speed, he flew from one lizard to another, dealing them a critical hit. Quickly, he cleared out the second wave, and then the third one, and after the third, the fourth. He had already entered the boss room while fighting the wolf. Subai quickly cut it down with his dagger. Finally, he killed the boss Hermit Fan, which gave him an entrance ticket to the 3rd floor. For a perfect sweep rating, he received additional experience. Also, he became the first player to pass the 2nd floor of the tower, for which he was presented with a golden chest, a ball, and coins, and he passed the floor in just half an hour, which broke the record. He opened another golden chest. The perfect equipment, combined lilac gold armor, dropped out of it. It was level 5 and had a regeneration effect. Subai was interested in this item and immediately decided to upgrade it once. Then he decided to put it on himself and immediately felt rich. He immediately burst the beginner's ball, gaining another 50,000 experience points, and was promoted to the 7th level. Subai once again evaluated his stats as he prepared to conquer the 3rd floor of the tower. He had spent 100 gold just for this upgrade, so he needed to earn more actively. He stepped onto the 3rd floor of the Silk Cave. Aggressive beavers and huge spiders crawled toward him out of the darkness. Subai charged at them, intending to chop up the little cuties. Meanwhile, on the 1st floor, the player was trying to kill the boss with his cannon. He was congratulated on his victory over the Minotaur, but it took him only 2 hours to finish, and he was very tired in that time. When he opened the chest, a rare weapon fell out, an exclusive longsword. The guy grinned, enjoying the loot. An alert popped up in front of him that Subai had cleared the 2nd floor. He screamed out in rage, not believing that he had completed it in just half an hour. The player collapsed to his knees in frustration, not understanding who Subai was. At this time, he was already battling a huge spider boss, wanting to show everyone his speed. The system congratulated Subai for clearing the 3rd floor in half an hour. Then he got to the 4th floor, in the Desert of Bloodflame, where he also dealt with the enemies. He was congratulated for clearing the 4th floor in 20 minutes. On the 5th floor, he entered the Misty Swamp, where he destroyed the boss fish. The system congratulated him on his new record for first clearing the 5th floor in less than 20 minutes. The players were already tired of receiving alerts about Subai's clearances. After all, in just an hour, he was able to deal with 3 floors. The tavern was fiercely discussing Zhang Xian for bringing the 10,000 Calamities Annihilation Cannon to the 1st floor. Meanwhile, in the meeting room of the strategic group, Pei Lingsui was very interested in this Subai. Nantian found it strange that Subai had no relatives and background at all, and his background was pure. Lingsui guessed that he had already found a good weapon in the tower, but the chance of such a drop is extremely small, even for the top group. The girl reminded him that he was one of the top 5 assassins, but he was interested in some boys' weapons. Nantian reminded her that she was walking around with a flame phoenix spear decorated with silk tassels. At this point, the leader slammed the table, silencing their discussion. Su Kang offered to buy his epic weapon if he didn't draw the S-rank transfer crystal at the end. For the sake of such a weapon, he was willing to invite it to be tested in his group. Nantian advised him to be careful, since it was better for newbies to start with an equivalent team and go to a third-rate team. But Su Kang reminded him about the past 2 years of rookies, and that there was nothing wrong with being the rookie king. Su Kang confirmed his verdict and left the room. Lingsui advised him to take care of himself, since he couldn't get a second transformation in a month. It might bring him to a second-rate team. Subai was sitting in front of the portal to the next floor. He stared thoughtfully at his stats. He was pretty lucky, but the increase in weapons dried him up a lot. Each level up had started to cost about 13 gold, but he only had 300 left. Clearing a floor gives him 500 gold, and if he gets the title of Novice King, 200 more will be added to that amount. He screamed in frustration, not knowing where to get more money. But suddenly he remembered something. When he opened his personal account, Yu-chan bombarded him with suggestions. Then he decided to go into business. He offered her transfer crystals for work and sold the crystal ranks at different prices. Yu-chan noticed that its prices were extremely lower than the market price, so she decided to take everything from him. He had 30 crystals, and he gave her 6 days to collect the money, and they would be traded after he left the tower. Subai was once again convinced that the rich had a lot of power. He closed the chat, intending to return to leveling up. So he stomped into the portal, greeting the 6th floor. On the 6th floor was the Wild Oasis. He knew that here the difficulty was increased by several times, and the boss was generally random. In his hands was a flying dragon crossbow. He had saved it in time, but there were very few arrows. Then he moved on, intending to save any shot. Suddenly, he heard a sound from the right, but he was surrounded on all sides by Black Panther. At this moment, he began to shoot arrows, wanting to test the effectiveness. One after another flew off from one arrow. But while he was firing in one direction, another pack came at him from behind. He whirled around and fired at the other side just like that. The Panthers lay slain, and Subai assessed the damage. But there were only a couple of arrows left, and he wanted to save them for a few more floors. According to his memory, the boss should move north along the water. So he went straight across the water to search. The familiar sounds of bubbling water could be heard, which gave a sign to the boss, and suddenly he found it. In the water, near the waterfall, there were creatures with tridents. They were level 9 amphibious fishmen. Subai immediately shot a few arrows at them and hit each one. The drop from the fishmen turned out to be coins and a B-rank change crystal. This made him very motivated, and he knew what the chance of rare items falling out here was. He decided to immediately offer it to Yu-chan to ask for an approximate price. The girl was willing to hand over $10 million of money, not just 100 gold. But Subai still demanded $1 million on top, and the girl agreed. Subai rode on through the water, but suddenly I heard strange noises from behind. He immediately recognized that roar that the boss was making. A level 10 Oasis demon fish crawled out of the water. It looked horribly ugly, but epic. So he decided to play with her, aiming with a crossbow. The fish ran at him, swinging its huge trident. She growled loudly as he hit her, and at that moment, Subai dodged her punch. Subai started firing at her in midair, dealing critical hits. The fish threw its trident at him, but Subai deftly dodged it. He hadn't expected anything about a mediocre, uncultivated fish. And then he shot the final arrow. Several arrows landed right on her forehead, and she roared in pain. The monster fell on its back in a dead heap. The floorkeeper was killed, and he was given a bonus for completing perfectly. For the first kill of this boss, he also received a reward, and he dealt with the floor in 2 hours, which was a record. Subai noticed that he was taking longer than usual. He was given 5 silver chests that dropped potions, coins, and the fish demon's bracers. Subai was surprised by the bad drop, but he still took the vambrace. The fish demon's bracers were of excellent quality, so he decided to wear them. I immediately followed him to the 7th floor. He decided to close the first 10 floors in 20 hours so that he could definitely get the title of Novice King. All of a sudden, the system issued an alert when Lin Mengshuan received the S-Class Berserker. In the tavern, I remembered that this is a girl from the Lin family who is extremely close to the top 1 status. But the girl reminded her of Subai, who had already opened the 7th floor before she passed the 3rd. The guys asked her not to underestimate the class change, which would raise her combat power to the sky. The girl assumed that it was all the sword of Sword Li, which strongly ensured her. He remembered that even the king of Zhou had given the weapon to his son. In the end, Zhou Junchai flew down to 3rd place when Meng Shuan overtook him. He decided to ignore the temporary leadership, wanting to show everyone when he reached the 5th floor. Subai went to the 7th floor of the gloomy castle. He had already started the boss battle, a huge skeleton. He was hitting her on the back where her weak spot was. Meng Shuan, meanwhile, was fighting on the 4th floor, and with her huge sword she threw away a group of enemies. Zinkai was on the 5th floor, collecting loot from the boss who had given him the Fate Stone Shard to change classes. He received an SS-ranked crystal, and his class became Mechanic. Subai was already clearing the 8th floor, the Abyss of Misery. He lunged at the skeletons, cutting off their limbs. He has 2 more floors to clear, and he will be the best. His opponents remained below him, trying to overtake him. Subai was fighting a huge group of zombies in the Nightmare City. Meng Shuan from the 7th floor wanted to catch up with Subai. Finally, Subai got to the boss on the 10th floor, Nightmare Platform. He was met by the boss of Nightmare Farm. For the sake of the Novice King, all that's left is to kill him. Subai decided to deal with him quickly, attacking back. He'd cut him in a series of times to make sure he didn't get a chance. A huge hand reached out for him. Nightmare wanted to teach him a lesson, but Subai knew his past tricks. So in one move, I cut it from the head down. The system congratulated player Su-bai on completing the 10th floor in record time. As a reward, he was given a random SSS rank profession change crystal and the title of Novice King. Now his experience was multiplied by 2, and he received passive stat enhancement. Su-bai was satisfied with his rewards. He recalled how he had walked 999 floors in his previous life, but had not received a title. He was surrounded by accumulated gold chests that he wanted to open all at once. A rare white tiger sword fell out of the first chest. Another dropped out a treasure map where you can get the perfect gear. Later, he got a rare energy shield, followed by a rare item, the Radiant Stone, which will hide the glow of the equipment from prying eyes. Finally, he got the perfect equipment, the Fire Dragon Glove. He immediately put them on because their characteristics were sky high. One of the chests opened with a powerful light, as if something cool was lying there. Su-bai estimated his stats that he could kill everyone with one hit. He decided to open all the accumulated silver chests, intending to sell everything he didn't need. He got a variety of equipment, from bad to useful. All the people were informed about Su-bai's record of clearing 10 floors in 17 hours. In the novice village, everyone was shocked. After all, no one had knocked out an SSS rank crystal for a long time. People fell to their knees, rejoicing in God's blessing for the appearance of such a powerful newcomer. Everyone in the meeting room was watching Su-bai. Su Kang demanded a complete file of him, ordering Ling Shui to handle it. He was going to intercept it right away, so that the other squads wouldn't look at it. Ling Shui asked their terms for Su-bai to agree. Su Kang ordered him to be given the top rank of the 11th squad, which made Ling Shui take aback, since this was their main squad. But Su-bai didn't deserve to stand next to the losers in the second squad. Su Kai was willing to pay him out of his own pocket, wanting to get him into the squad. They should never have missed it. Everyone agreed with him, since after an SSS-ranked fighter joined, they would become the second strongest after the first squad where Immortal Sword Li sits. Ling Shui immediately proceeded with the captain's order. She wanted to rub the nose of the upstarts herself. It was noticed in the rookie tavern that Su-bai hadn't changed classes yet, and yet he had achieved such success. Everyone didn't understand why he was left without a class. At this moment, the tavern's door opens with a kick. The warriors immediately frowned as they drew their weapon. But there was only a stranger at the door with a huge bag on his back. They realized that the manager would soon kill him if he tried to approach her. She hadn't expected him to return so quickly. Su-bai immediately asked her for the Starfall drink, which was her signature recipe. No one understood why she didn't deal with him. The manager immediately smelled his catch. She asked for 1 gold coin per glass. When he drank the glass, his stats went up by 1 point. But Su-bai asked her for a private room on the 2nd floor. Suddenly, from behind, someone noticed Yu-chan entering. The girl was glad that she didn't bring that argument with Su-bai to a conflict. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so lucky. Su-bai suggested that she check out the goods. She hadn't expected to see such a huge bag. They went to the VIP room on the 2nd floor while he opened the bag and threw the crystals on the table. The squad couldn't believe their eyes. There were more than a dozen different crystals of different ranks. And then he remembered that he also had an S-rank crystal offering it to her. Everyone was instantly shocked, not expecting such a product. Yu-chan stared at the crystal with her mouth open. The S-rank crystal gave out the profession of a magical scholar. Yu-chan was speechless as she held such a powerful item. She carefully placed it on the pillow and asked for the price, wanting to get it no matter what. Su-bai offered all the crystals on the market, except for the S crystal. He wanted 10% in cash and the rest in gold coin. He also wanted to get a purchase of materials from them. Yu-chan didn't mind, purchasing was her business. He handed her a list of purchases. Su-bai sat down on the sofa in relief. He was now interested in her S crystal price. Yu-chan offered him 2 billion in cash. Su-bai was shocked, not expecting such a high price. She knew that such goods couldn't be bought, but even this price seemed cheap. She promised him 200,000 gold pieces to exchange, and also a mansion in Lingfeng City in the tower. Security tried to explain to her that these houses are not even sold to ordinary people, and this is the first city after the tower. Su-bai estimated that the house was worth at least 2 billion. Yu-chan waited resolutely for his answer. Therefore, he agreed to its terms, offering to pay in a week. Back then, Yu-chan offered to sign the contract now. Su-bai signed the contract. They shook hands, signifying the beginning of a deal. She held the crystal in her hands with a satisfied face, and Su-bai knew that she had something to say. Yu-chan awkwardly mentioned his SSS rank crystal and briefly offered to join the Ling Corporation if he wanted to. He decided to talk about it later, not planning on changing classes anytime soon. Yu-chan wondered why he had made such a decision, since the crystal could easily be taken away. But Su-bai had his own plans and decided to go rest after a hard day. Everyone was discussing Ms. Ling's incredible politeness, not understanding who this guy was. They didn't believe that the great Su-bai would come here in beginner's clothes. People looked at him, realizing that it was Su-bai, thinking that he should only be wearing shiny clothes. The manager was sad that her business was frozen because of Su-bai, and she wanted to deal with him. While Subai was sleeping, the door to the room was opened by the landlady. She finally found where he was hiding. I kicked him awake. He didn't expect to see her here, calling her Nana. She was angry at the nickname and strongly reminded him that he had caused her business to freeze, so she ordered him to solve the problem with the crowd below, otherwise she would solve everything with him. Subai handed her a handful of gold coins with a smirk, and he would throw them right in front of her eyes so that she would decide the question. She grabbed the coins, immediately changing her character. But Subai asked her to solve everything without killing. But the girl didn't plan anything like that. Suddenly, Subai remembered that he had a proposal for her. The hostess thought about another rare recipe for swill, but in his hands was a glowing SSS rank crystal. He wanted to start the trial of the gods. The hostess didn't expect him to know about it at all. In fact, he had gone through it more than 100 times in his previous life, but he didn't reply to her. The hostess said that this crystal was the pass, but they don't give anything there except for another crystal of a unique hidden class. She was trying to clarify his answer because if he took the risk, this crystal would disappear forever. But Subai confidently asked her to run the test. She sighed, knowing he wouldn't change his mind. Subai considered himself resilient enough to handle this. So I handed the legendary crystal over to her, when she broke it with her hand, which caused her to activate the trial. A crystal in the floor formed a portal to the trial. The hostess reminded him that it wasn't too late to change his mind, but Subai didn't plan on refusing, calling the girl Nana. For this, she immediately kicked him in the portal. As he flew, he cursed her for another kick. The hostess didn't understand what he meant by next, but the guy seemed familiar to her. Subai landed on the Trial of the Gods on an island in the middle of the lava. When he got up, he felt familiar feeling. It was just like in my previous life. The system blocked his inventory and equipment slots and canceled his gains. He slowly stomped on the islands between the lava, and in it floated corpses that tried to pass the tests. But here he was, right behind what made them heroes. He decided to open his statistics. Fortunately, out of all the equipment, he still had that perfect hoe. He took it out in his hand and noticed something. The system started counting down to the grave demon wave. He was already prepared to fight them, and his current stat was even stronger than his first playthrough in his previous life. Portals began to appear around him. The arena was only 1,500 square meters, and there was no way he could fall into the lava. Paws emerged from the portals, and immediately a whole flock of spiders appeared. There were more and more of them by the second, so there was no need to delay. He immediately charged into the battle, and he cut down one of the spiders. The damage was extremely small for such a test, but he cut down another spider from behind, and with Crit's help, he took it down in one hit. He was given 1 point for one demon. Subai didn't expect any other generosity from the system, and chopped the huge spider into pieces. One spider after another was killed by it, and he made 3 crits in a row, demolishing them in one hit. He used the steel slash technique, which greatly enhances one's combat power. If he didn't know these techniques, he wouldn't be able to pass the tests even with his experience in combat. A group of spiders rushed towards him again. Subai sighed calmly. Once again, he tore them apart with the technique in one blow. He cut without stopping, feeling his power. Everyone in the chat started discussing Subai's failure to activate his SSS rank crystal, but we noticed that Yu-chan is putting out newbie equipment with a lot of crystal. Everyone realized that this was Subai's doing, and they were afraid that he had managed to sell the SSS crystal. Dana kicked out a few guys who were trying to sneak up to the second floor. She said that Subai wasn't here, and his crystal had long since been broken. The guys were demanding proof, but her proof was that she personally broke it with her own hand and offered to demonstrate it on his head. In the meeting room, Su Kang was reading paper. Suddenly, he was informed that the tavern girl had broken Subai's crystal. They realized that this was definitely not a lie because Dana, the tavern manager, would not lie as an NPC. Everyone laughed at him for losing his crystal without using it. Su Kang slammed his palm down on the table out of rage that the guy had lost his legendary crystal. He grinned, reminding himself that Subai wasn't worthy of their main squad in his opinion. Ling Shui didn't understand what he was doing here. Su Kang reined in their conflict because Subai was missing. He ordered them to guard the tower and wait for him to come out. The guy didn't see the point in catching it, since it wouldn't get the SSS crystal back. But Su Kang wasn't interested in the crystal. It was his technique that could grant them another crystal after a while. Ling Shui praised their leader's intelligence. The guy didn't know what to do with Subai by suggesting bullying, but Su Kang didn't play with such methods. He was going to bribe him with any amount of gold just to get a special technique out of his mouth. Subai continued to kill the spiders in one hit. Finally, he completed the first round after 10 hours. But he had 9 more levels ahead of him, and he needed to kill 1,000,000 monsters and get to the SSS rating. He's only killed 11,000 in all that time, and all the work is still ahead of him. At the beginning of the second round, his stats were restored and the sting demons would arrive soon. He had to continue, and soon the end of the rookie period will be over, which is very urgent. A flock of wasps has flown up to him and their bite is starting to bleed. And he immediately decided to change weapon. It was a whip of thorns. Here they were free to change armor and weapons, although at the initial level, but better than just a blade. The wasps began to attack. He lashed at them with a whip, chopping off their bodies, and with one blow took down 20 wasps. Subai was satisfied with the appropriate weapons. Even though the wasps were poisonous, their defense was weak. He used Aura Wave and Disclosure, continuing to kill the wasps in one move. 12 hours later, his bill was almost 300,000. He was terribly tired, but he killed all the demons. I was so tired that I couldn't even speak for shortness of breath, but I changed my weapon. The level was quite good, although it was tiring. He moved up to the third round, recuperating. After a minute, a wave of magical goblins will appear. He changed his weapon back to a bow, knowing that the goblins were attacking from far away. Winged goblins appeared with spears in their hands. They swooped down on him in a pack. Subai shot many arrows in their direction and hit almost all of them. He only needed one arrow to kill the goblin, but they were about to attack. He was adept at dodging their attacks, but he had to be faster. Meanwhile, on the 10th floor of the tower, on the Nightmare platform, Lin Mengshuan was congratulated on completing the 10th floor, which took her 40 hours. She was now ranked second behind Subai. On the 6th day of the rookie trial, the system gave out general statistics, where only 4.5 million rookies qualified, which wasn't much different from the previous year. There were only 8 outstanding S and SS ranked disciples in the Yan country. People sighed, realizing that the country had once again failed at the end, although everything was already going better than last year. Their country took 2 powerful players, Junkai and Wei Lan, and then Meng Xuan and Yu Chan. Suddenly, they thought of Subai. While Yu Chan was eating, Zhang Fei asked why she had declined Meng Xuan's and Junkai's invitations. He advised not to miss such a chance for the sake of Subai alone, thinking about uniting and raising the level of the Lin clan. Yu Chan ignored him, reminding him that she had asked for some preparation. He handed her the bag and wanted to understand why she was doing this, but she had her own plan. Yu Chan opened her friend list, which consisted of Zhang Fei, Suqi, and Subai. For a week now, Subai's status had been based on anomaly, and he appeared almost immediately after the rumors about the destroyed crystal appeared. She assumed that he was in the rookie zone and was waiting for him to surprise the world. Subai, meanwhile, was going through the 7th round of the Trial of the God. This time, he was fighting with stone statues, and he fired icy arrows at them, killing everyone with one shot. He knew they were becoming brittle, like glass made of ice. Subai knew that roughly 6 days had passed, and there were only 3 rounds left, but time was running out. He reached the 8th round after regaining all his stats. The enemies were poisonous scarabs. The insects tried to surround him, but he cut them open, killing 30 of them at once. After 6 hours, he was killing huge demons, and he still took them down one punch at a time. Finally, he had scored 1,000,000 points in the Trial of the Gods, and there were only 24 hours left until the end of the novice trial. There is only the last level boss left, and the achievement Hero will belong to him. He touched the red sphere to summon the final boss. A huge pentagram formed beneath it. A level 10 red lotus demon emerged from it. Subai was satisfied that the boss remained the same. The demon swung at him, wanting to kill the man. He threw a powerful punch, but Subai managed to dodge. He jumped up and down the rocks, sensing the complexity of the Demon King. Due to its powerful defense, it can't take any damage at all. Subai then decided to wait until he could break through it. He dodged another attack. Subai jumped on the flying comets as he dodged his blows. He had a cat hook on his arm. This time, he was having more fun than in the past. Using the hook, he lifted the skeleton out of the lava. I grabbed it with a hook. He decided to give the Demon King a taste of the lava and threw it directly at him. The king covered his face in searing pain, and Subai took advantage of this moment to avenge everyone he had killed. A katana formed in his hand, which he struck. With a blow, he knocked off one of the Demon King's upper wings. Subai realized that this was the right moment to attack. He leaped forward, aiming his bow. All 3 hit him squarely in the chest. After the shot was fired, he dashed up the rocks. I shot one at his wrist. He drew another arrow, exulting in his victory. The Demon King screamed in rage. A hail of arrows rained down on him. He activated his attack, intending to hit him. But wherever he went, Subai dodged every attack. And at that moment, he was too close. He decided it was time to get this over with, and he began to chop off its wings with a hook-shaped sword. Because of this, he lost the ability to fly and fell down right into the sea of lava. Sushan was jumping up. He was congratulated on completing the Trial of the Gods, and now he can get the only hidden class. He collapsed on the ground, exhausted. If he exchanges 1,000,000 points, he can get the superclass Hero. Subai laughed mightily, knowing that the class was above any SSS-ranked class, and it was only thanks to him that he was able to conquer all 999 floors in his previous life. He decided not to rush to a decision and would like to believe the same legend about the Golden Hoe. He threw her into the lava to see if she had the ability to copy item, and he waited in silence for a miracle. but it just disappeared, causing Subai to panic a lot. Something strange started happening with the number of points. But then, vortices appeared from the lava, which confirmed the legend. One yellow half of the sphere appeared, and then the purple half. Together, they illuminated Subai. A full sphere was born within him, powered by the forces. At that moment, they burst into pieces, for which he received a double-class hero and demon king. His face is split in half, making him both human and demon, but it's not what he expected. A portal appeared above him as he tried to recover. He checked the stats, where his stats had increased by at least 5 times, making his mana infinite. Subai bid farewell to the fallen heroes, promising to continue their work. Now he could take down 2 gods at once. Finally, Yu-chan noticed the activity from Subai. There was a strange shaking going on in the tavern, but the sound came from the top floor. The manager opened the door to the room. Subai appeared on the sofa in a relaxed pose, causing her to be shocked. She didn't expect him to take that class, but then she felt that there was not only a hero present, but also a demon king, which was strictly forbidden. Subai Yi wasn't surprised by her attentive gaze. He was tired of hiding and wanted to come out, inviting her to join him, but she didn't want to see the street. Subai promised to come back when he wanted a drink, but Dana threw him something as a reward for completing it. He had a hide icon in his hand, which hid both his status and appearance. Dana just didn't want him to die prematurely because the Demon King is hated in the tower. He thanked her for her concern. She was shy and started kicking him, but he was already gone. Subai went to Rome, the first major city after leaving the novice village. Here you can take quests, learn skills, and go to the tower floors from the 11th to the 30th. He walked through streets that were very familiar to him. Suddenly, the Yu-chan squad was in front of him. She was very happy to see him, wondering what he was doing. Yu-chan invited him to the Ling family's Chamber of Commerce. He was impressed by the luxury of the Lin family. She placed the payment boxes and the necessary items in front of him. The guards looked at each other in silence. Yu-chan wanted to know his current class rank. She just wanted to know the truth about the rumor that he had lost the profession change crystal. He didn't understand how they could know that. Yu-chan explained how Dana had blurted out that she had destroyed the crystal herself. Subai didn't hide the fact that these words were true. Yu-chan didn't understand why he was so calm about it. She considered him so elite that even losing an SSS crystal was nothing to him. She assumed that he just had another crystal. Subai didn't think it was a problem, but I wanted to hear what she wanted. Back then, Yu-chan invited him to the Ling Guild to kill together. Finding allies was a normal practice, because once you get out of the rookie zone, the difficulty increases. He didn't mind killing bosses with her, but he refused to join the guild. Subai suggested that they take them through 5 floors, requiring 5 damage mages in a group, not going to gather a whole group, otherwise they will interfere with setting record. Yu-chan jumped at his words about breaking record. She knew that a normal sweep would require a group of 20 people. Subai didn't try to explain anything to her. The reward is still less than the first kills, so he's not interested in it. But Yu-chan didn't refuse at all, just as she was about to start. Subai had set the start date for tomorrow, and today he had things to do. Zhang Fei recalled that he didn't have the SSS crystal and considered him a fraud. But even a novice could put down 4 of his own kind, and at that moment, they could not become enemies with him. She gave the order to find the 4 mages. Zhang Fei held a grudge against him, intending to destroy him. Subai arrived at the city lord's residence, but was stopped by a guy. It was Wu Kai who had warned about the ban on breaking into the lord's residence. Subai decided to tell him one way to get inside. This tip was, be strong enough. As he approached, the guards greeted the hero and invited him in while the lord was training. Everyone was looking at it in wonder how he was able to enter so easily. He was walking towards the lord surrounded by guards. At this moment, a huge explosion was heard. Subai walked in and saw the fight in the arena. One of the fighters was the captain of the guard, Orlando Mullen, and he was a level 180 Earth Mage, and against him was the Lord of the City of Rome, Black Rien, who was a great swordsman of the 200th level. Subai was glad that he had come directly to a training session where he could learn rare skill. The knight stopped him while the Lord was fighting the captain. He didn't have any skills, so he would have to look for skill books, but here he could get them in an easier way. A C-rank sword skill was immediately discovered. This was a personal skill of a great swordsman. After that, the earth magic skill was offered, which he also took. The skill dropped on his head one by one. He took everything that was given to him indiscriminate. 10 minutes later, the fight was just over. Subai could only learn the first skills, and then he wanted to sleep. The knight informed the Lord that a hero was waiting for him, which surprised him. The Lord wanted to see his sign. Subai had no problem opening his hero badge above his head, which gave him a shock. Everyone immediately got down on one knee, respectfully greeting the hero. The Lord didn't expect another hero to appear after 100 years. Subai didn't understand what he was talking about. After all, in his previous life, he had said the same thing to him. He told him about the legend of a hero that appears every 100 years, and he must dispel the darkness and lead the people to the dawn. Subai asked him about the active quests, but they were only level 10. The Lord abruptly remembered that he had lost a dog and asked him to find it for 10 gold pieces. This made Subai very angry that he thought he was a beggar. The Earth Mage decided to give him a couple of errands, and as a reward, skill points or books. The wizard Orlando offered him the task of collecting 200 skull flowers and 1,000 skull souls, and then the wizard's insane ambition. The Lord remembered that he still had a suitable assignment. Black Rian offered him a task about an anomaly in the suburbs of Rome. Subai recognized the main storyline, which no one has touched in all 10 seasons because players forget about the best way to level up, quests. Suddenly he was surprised. Black Rian gave him a task to instruct a warrior. The Lord had heard that the holders of this title were unsurpassed masters of combat, so I asked him to give them a sparring session. Subai was surprised by the challenge, but decided to do it. He didn't really want to fight these overpumped NPCs, but the reward was too tempting. The Lord decided to block his level and skills, asking him not to hold back his power, but he asked them to keep about level 30 and add Orlando to the fight. They looked at him in shock. The men tried to talk him out of it, but Subai wanted to deal with them faster. They looked at each other in disbelief. They immediately apologized for their impertinence. The audience recalled how the Lord and Captain had taken down a level 200th elite boss together. Subai had already prepared to receive the attack. The men tempered their weapons to test the hero's strength. The Lord made a sharp lunge to land the first blow. But after the impact, Subai was no longer there. Because he was already behind me. Orlando saw this and activated the stone spikes at the back of his head. Subai realized that he couldn't dodge, so he decided not to. And he used his katana to make a lot of cuts, blocking the spikes. The audience was shocked by his speed, worthy of the title of hero. The Lord decided to show him their true strength. Orlando activated Quagmire under Subai while the Lord was running into battle. I decided to strike again, but Subai deftly dodged his predictable punches. Then the Lord swung again, but Subai pushed off from the ground and jumped over his attacks. The Lord began to strike a third blow, but at this moment Subai was already holding the sword at Orlando's throat, putting him in a stalemate. The entire audience was shocked by how quickly the captain managed to lose. The Lord was ordered to attack, but he couldn't believe that this was a level 10 power. He wasn't going to give up, so he lunged at him again. The Lord swept his sword across the ground, charging at them, and when the flames were right in front of Subai's face, he grinned. Subai had already appeared behind him, striking out with the sword wave. The Lord fell to the ground and accepted defeat. The hero noticed that he still needs to learn and learn. He received a notification that the task was completed. The Lord didn't believe that the hero had no equal before, but now he realized his mistake. Subai praised their skill control and promised to come back again, but now he's going on a mission. The Lord and Captain saw him off. The hero leaped forward, and the Lord was confident that he could lead them to dawn. There were teleporters all over the city of Rome for easy movement. Subai decided to learn the skills first to be more confident. He had read about the uppercut skill, which throws an enemy into the air, and when combined with a series of jabs, it can do endless combos. He began to learn all the skills he had acquired, which give him profitable bundles. Now he had a high stat, and his skills were upgraded to the 10th level. He came to the portal protected by the knights and decided to go to the land of the dead to complete Orlando's quests. The guards demanded 80 coppers and a double fare for the return trip. The price of the path is quite expensive. Subai stood in the portal, which made him feel sick. He was teleported to the land of the dead, which looked painfully realistic. He sold all the equipment, leaving only one sword. When he was playing, he didn't feel how cold it was here. Suddenly, he heard strange noises. Level 21 skeleton warriors appeared in front of him. Subai knew how much experience they gave, so he decided to try out new skills directly on them. He immediately used the Earth Mage skill. He slapped 3 skeletons in the face with spikes, killing them with a single blow. He continued to fire spikes at them. His magic attack was over 3,000, which gave him a huge advantage. Experience dropped and dropped in large numbers. He did not stop there, continuing to farm experience. In the end, all the skeletons were killed, and he received the 11th level and 20 skill points. He remembered that in the past times, the hero class was only given 10 points, which was already considered incredible, but it seems that a double class also doubles points. Per level, he gained 50 points for each parameter. The skeletons were reborn again. Subai continued to fire a hail of thorns at them. He abruptly raised the wall, which threw the skeletons back. He decided to continue to accumulate skills and farm quests for skill points. One of the tasks was completed, and he collected 1,000 skulls. Suddenly, a huge silhouette appeared behind the skeletons. It was the Skullfire boss. His level was 48, and he had 500,000 health points. Subai continued to shoot spikes at the skeletons to feed more. He killed them in packs in just one hit. The boss started to take steps forward. Subai was confident with his infinite mana. The skeleton raised its huge glowing sword, sucking in the skeleton's soul. And immediately, for some reason, I used my ultimate. He knew that when he was full, he was going to turn up the heat, so he needed a plan. Subai dashed towards him, jumping straight to his chest. He kicked out, cracking it. He started jumping on it at an unrealistic speed, and then he continued to do it, dealing more and more damage. The skeleton swung, trying to hit him, but Subai was jumping at him, kicking him. Using 2 skills in a row, he pushed the boss into the distance. Thanks to the skill, it hit him in the skull, demolishing 20,000 at once. Subai taunted him. The boss fell apart into small bones. He was immediately raised to level 12, and in place of the bones, skull flowers were formed, which he needed for the task. While he was collecting them, he found the Undead Summon skill book. He spent 10 skill points to learn it, and I decided to check right away because of what the skeletons came out of the ground. Now, the skeleton warriors were his assistants that adjusted to his characteristics. Given their strength, they looked like mobs under level 40. He could create a personal army to deal with the crowd. Subai immediately gave them the order to collect the skull flowers, which they immediately carried out. He went to the Swamp of Death. There were aggressive lizards crawling around, but he sent his army of skeletons to attack them. They started to fight the swamp monsters. Then Subai once again used the skill, and he took to his army of skeletons thorns of huge size and with great health. Thanks to this, he was able to raise his Undead Summon skill to the 2nd level. At some point, he heard a commotion in one direction. He saddled Thornbearer to check it out. When he arrived, the huge demon was holding a dead Thornbearer in its hand. Subai didn't understand how much sacrifice was needed to create this monster. The animal noticed him and growled. He immediately attacked him. Subai ran through the hills, knowing that this creature was created by a necromancer through a forbidden ritual. I decided to release him from his torment by attacking him with spikes. But the monster didn't care and attacked with its hand. Subai was surprised by its strength. Then he rushed towards him with his sword. He slapped her across the jaw, finishing the job. He landed many blows to the chest, dealing a lot of damage. As a result, the monster began to fall, and Subai dealt the final damage of 100,000. He was surprised by the monster's size. He collected another skull flower. Subai completed the quest Mad Mage's Diary and decided not to rush to complete the 2nd one because there was no time limit, so he decided to go to the meeting first. He drove back to the west of Rome and walked down the street with a bag on his back while people around him discussed it. Subai exchanged the items for money. In the end, he was only given a couple dozen gold coins for the entire night of work, which is extremely unprofitable. He passed by the blacksmiths, trying to find a blacksmith of a higher level. Suddenly, they recognized him, surrounding him. People blamed him for losing the SSS rank crystal and now shamelessly walking around. Even with his face hidden, he was recognized by the people of the Ling clan, so he decided to leave. He even went out of town, but the crowd of people did not lag behind. People started calling out to all the people to look at the legendary rookie. He tried to pretend to be the humble Mr. Su. Some people were taken in, but you can't fool people. Jin Pentian wanted an explanation of how he lost the SSS crystal. Subai took off his mask, not understanding why he should have to answer to him for his item. They believed that all the items knocked out in the rookie zone belonged to the Yang country. Peng Tian gave orders to his squad to attack him. They wanted a lot of things from him. The boys pounced on it. Subai activated the skill with spikes, attacking them. With each spike, he knocked out one player. Everyone was shocked that they couldn't even see the animation of his attack, but he took down the 30th levels in one hit. Then he decided to send the shield bearers ahead. Subai continued to shoot thorns at them. His projectiles pierced through their defenses. Everyone watched their fight, not wondering how he was able to break records. Peng Xian tried to continue commanding his squad, but Subai simply raised the stone walls, blocking the attacks from the mages. He decided to show what he could do as well by shooting ice arrows at them. Peng Xian only saw his squad die one by one and decided to leave. He ran away, leaving his team behind. But Subai ran after him and overtook the frightened guy. He brought it to its knees, demanding answers as to who had sent it. But he swore that he did it all by himself, begging for mercy. In fact, he knew what would happen to his family if he revealed anything. Subai held the sword up to his face, knowing that he was going to die. But he didn't choose to die alone, swinging a dagger at him. But Subai cut it down in one move, leaving him lying around, going to figure it out on his own. They were discovered by Yu Chan, who was worried about Subai, and behind her, the mages were leading Zhang Fei bound. She called out to him from behind. Yu Chan immediately sincerely apologized, bringing the traitor to him, and gave him every right to do whatever he wanted. Subai didn't expect Zhang Fei to try to kill him, but he was jealous of his mistress's favor and wanted to get rid of his cocky face. Subai let her make the decision. After all, this was her man. Yu Chan gave the order to deal with him according to the laws of the clan. The mages at the back started burning Zhang Fei alive, while Yu Chan apologized for the trouble. Subai liked the way she solved problems. They all went together to the portal on the 11th floor of the tower. Subai knew that there was a common den of creatures that were infested by alien gods. Yu-chan brought everyone she needed, 3 wind mages and 1 fire mage, each level 20. Subai asked them to give him some skills. He was looking at their skills when he noticed an Ifrit pet that was an extremely rare skill. Subai gave them one condition, so that they wouldn't disobey his order. Yu-chan promised that they would be the best fighters in her guild. Everyone watched as the Lin Guild members went to the 11th floor. They hit the floor, and Yu-chan began to doubt that they would have enough men to win. Subai reminded that the number of mobs on a floor depends on the number of people. In fact, it would be easier for him to complete it alone, but she wants to break the record. There were only a couple of seconds left before the fight. A level 13 Wolf Eater appeared in front of them, followed by his pack. Subai decided to take on the first waves by activating the Thorn skill. The spikes flew straight at the wolves, and they took them all down in one blow. Subai could feel how much experience it was to be able to reach the 14th level. While he was fighting, everyone watched with their mouths open to see how much infinite mana he had. The mages realized how powerful Subai was after his single-handed victory over the pack. But Subai didn't see it as admiration until Yu-chan was speechless. The magicians were glad that they were lucky and could pass through the floors. They continued on, reaching the edge. The mages with Subai started firing at the enemies. Yu-chan and Subai fought back-to-back. They arrived at Hill, and Subai ordered Yu-chan to summon an Afriti. Yu-chan immediately obeyed his order. An Ifrit pet crawled out of the ground. Subai ordered everyone to prepare for battle. Level 14. Hills came out in front of them. Everyone started firing together at the enemies from afar. The Ifrit flew into battle, and from his attacks, something began to emerge. It was another copy of the Ifrit. Subai noticed that the Ifrit was dividing up his energy for attacking mob. The mages were surprised at how many copies the Ifrit had spawned. The Ifrit army was flying forward. Everything was on fire. Yu-chan had warned him that after 8 copies of an Ifrit, he had 10 minutes left, and it took half an hour to roll back the skill. But Subai already knew that. She didn't know what to do next, since without the Ifrits, the Hills would get closer. But Subai assured her that the Ifrits wouldn't be lost. Suddenly, the Ifrit fell apart, leaving only its horn. Yu-chan realized that the flames had been blown away from him, causing him to become a stone statue. The mages continued to hold off their opponent. Subai decided to fight next. He used his skill by extending his hand. He raised the remaining Ifrit horns with energy. They suddenly flew into the sky, and in their place appeared a huge Ifrit. Yu-chan immediately recognized the summon of the dead. The huge Ifrit swirled in a whirlwind, attacking the enemies. He was sending out huge fireballs and blew up all the enemies at once. It gave out a huge amount of damage due to the combination with Subai's magic damage. The mages were shocked at how powerful this mage was. Yu-chan realized that they could actually break the passing record. Meanwhile, in the Wang Guild Hall, he shouted at his subjects that they couldn't handle an ordinary rookie, so they also became enemies with the Lin clan. Yuren didn't understand why he was so nervous. After all, they didn't need the Lin clan if they teamed up with the Li clan. Moreover, she had a plan to get the best out of this scandal. She reported that Ling Yu-chan was listed as the first heir of the Ling clan, and if they spread a rumor about the sinner Subai losing the SSS rank crystal because of Yu-chan, the outcome would be clear. Zixi laughed at the malicious plan, intending to watch it happen. Meanwhile, the Ling clan was fighting on the 11th floor of the tower while Subai managed the team. They were almost at the floor boss cave. Yu-chan noticed that magic was like wind. One of the mages noticed the tornado spell that Subai used. They had already passed 90%, and that brought them closer to the record. The party came to a snow cave where huge yetis were sitting. Yu-chan didn't know what to do next, so Subai ordered her Afrit to go with him and leave them here. He didn't need their input, but she didn't want to let him go alone, since he was only a maid. Yu-chan decided not to stop him. After all, he had never lost before. Subai has put on his fire dragon gloves, and a fire magic explosion is triggered upon impact. He swung his fist, and he threw a punch, producing a huge explosion, wanting to test his fist-fighting skills. Everyone started to burn. They couldn't believe that Subai was also a fist fighter. Subai slapped the huge bird's face while he used melee techniques along with magic damage. But he wanted to get to the boss as quickly as possible without having to fight with a small thing. So he summoned his huge skeletons. I ran with them. He continued to summon the undead until his skill rose to level 6. Now he could command his own army. The mages greatly admired the sight, as if they were watching an epic raid. Yu-chan also admired him. Subai tensed up after noticing the boss exit. A level 18 great devouring snow bear jumped out at him. He had been waiting for it to come out for a very long time, and he sent an Ifrit on it. On the bear's leap, he activated his battle fist. The boss missed with his mace, so Subai charged at him. He started covering him with punches because he didn't have time to react. The bear began to spin, throwing punches with its hand. Subai was exhausted from his bestial strength, wanting to deal with him faster. The boss swung his mace violently. It hit the ground just as Subai was about to use a dash ramp. He began to shower him with blows from his gauntlet, dealing crit after crit. From each blow, he made a jerk ram, while the bear stewed from the fire. Subai was about to finish up. Once again, the gauntlet rained down fiercely. The bear growled loudly. He fell to the ground like a corpse. Subai managed it quite quickly. The mages were shocked that the boss was already defeated before they could even see anything. The system congratulated the squad for completing the 11th floor and announced that Subai, leading the Ling squad, had broken a new record. Yu-chan couldn't believe that they had done this. Subai had already left without even entering the cave. The announcement went around the world about the record in passing in 14 hours of Subai at the head of the Lin squad. In Rome, everyone was shocked that he was able to do this without a class. The stall seller claimed that he had his own secrets. People started to assume that Yu-chan had done all the work, but she was just a fire maid, and she wouldn't be able to match the record. After all, only the Holy Ray classes normally break through on the 11th floor, and even Jianxiang couldn't pass it before 20 o'clock. In the Yang country's military headquarters, Su Kang shouted at his squad that they couldn't find the person who was setting records at this time. Ling Shui claimed that they weren't scouting, and Su Kang was surprised at their audacity to snap back. He asked the guys results, and he reported that Subai had been spotted outside the city smashing up a squad of players above level 30. But Subai's name wasn't in any rankings, but he was selling an S-rank Yu-chan crystal, making it automatically higher. The guy reported on the assessment of Subai's potential from their tech department, which gave him an SS level. Su Kang demanded to find him, and he didn't care about their calculations. Let them mean his potential for SSS. He was looking at the information about Suba, where there was almost no information. He didn't understand how he did it. Suddenly, a rush of breaking news burst into the office. He was shown something on the tablet, from which he was shocked. It was a worldwide announcement about completing the 12th floor of the tower with the Lin squad in just 3 hours. They and the squad defeated the boss Nar. The entire squad was already running out. They weren't used to this speed. Subai offered to replace the party as long as there were magicians, but they got up from the ground, intending to continue the battle. Subai then entered the portal to the 13th floor. Yu-chan knew that he was more powerful than SSS ranks because he could take out bosses in less than 10 minutes. At this moment, the guild's negotiation hall Zixi gave up, realizing that they couldn't handle such a monster. He remembered that Yuezhan was the one who made all the plans against Subai, but she pretended not to know about. Zixi reminded them of their close relationship, but she thought it was just a joke. It reminded her of the idea to round up Subai, but she didn't remember anything. In the end, the girl just decided to leave the room while Zixi couldn't figure out what to say. Meanwhile, on the 13th floor of the tower in the Fell Plain, the squad fought hard. They were fighting against cutting rabbits, which are very difficult to catch, so it took a lot of time. He ordered everyone to occupy several burrows to catch their exit. He released a fireball. Because of this, the rabbits began to jump out of some holes, getting stuck in them. He was going to burn down all their homes so that they wouldn't come out one by one. Finally, they were done, and it was time to go to the boss. But Yu-chan's strength was already running out after the 3rd floor. They came to a gloomy house. The boss was Winsleyton, who was guarded by wild wolves. Subai ordered them to stay outside, intending to deal with the boss. He kicked the gate open. The scary man turned on him, threatening him for entering his mansion. Yu-chan advised her to stay away from him. He sent out his fanged hounds, but Subai used the stone walls skill. He lifted the dogs into the air. Winsleyton didn't finish its magic. Because of his spell, it sent out an ear-splitting wave. Subai was already lashing out at him, and I hit him, leaving him without a chance. He stabbed it hard with his sword, dealing crit. Winsleyton continued to threaten him, and he sent out his scary bats. The squad was still sitting there being attacked by Yi because of his loud attack. But it didn't work on Subai because he has a well-trained mind. Therefore, the sound attack doesn't affect him as long as he kept cutting it. The man fell posthumously, and Subai counted him as a warm-up. The Lin group once again broke the record by completing the 13th floor in 5 hours. The entire squad was shocked that the boss had died so quickly. Subai suggested that they go out and rest for a couple of hours before continuing. Everyone was very happy that they could finally rest after a day of fighting. The mages sat around the fire, not regretting their journey. Yu-chan handed him a chicken on a stick to restore his strength, but his stamina was fine. He started eating the chicken while looking at his stats. And I noticed that the title Hero gives plus 30 points per level, and the Demon King plus 20. He decided to test if the Clock of All Things could level up skill. It turned out that you can. He improved the skill Spear of Sliding Ice. It was quite expensive to upgrade skills, but A-rank skills weren't given out for nothing. Subai decided to leave it at that, intending to farm gold every day. He started to devour the chicken while the mages looked at him in surprise, as he hadn't eaten since entering the novice zone. Everyone started comparing themselves to Subai, who plowed even at the maximum level, eating disgusting food for the sake of statistic. The mages became motivated, wanting to continue on his orders. Yuchan didn't understand what had come over them. Subai walked down the cliff, and I decided to start already. He ordered them to stay close to him and keep up. They entered the 14th floor of the tower, the labyrinth of stone giants, where they fought with red wasps. They were the firebug armadillos that attacked from all directions. After them was the creeper eater. As they walked on, the floor remained empty, and Yuchan began to doubt the correct path. But Subai was confident, ordering him to stay here and summon the Ifrit. He went forward alone. Yuchan suddenly noticed something. A double magic golem that he hadn't seen in a long time appeared next to Subai, and I decided to assess their strength, taking out a mace. The golem sharpened its eye. The two of them charged at him, but they couldn't catch him as he flew up, bumping into each other. He aimed a beam at them in mid-air, knowing they were fooled. It flew away when they realized their mistake. One of the golem parts noticed him. He had already managed to land and run away. Subai was surprised that he gave out his ultimate so quickly. He ran to the other side. He didn't want to just fend off his ulta like a rookie, so I hit the wall with my mace. The golem's eyes glowed bright red, and he fired a laser through the hole in the wall. Yuchan was startled by its power. Subai swung the electrified mace at him. He leapt at the second golem. He hit him right in the eye, wanting to test a new skill on him. Ice flowers appeared above them as he ordered them to fall apart. He raised his hand, activating the ability to end the fight. One golem was split apart by a huge beam that immediately turned it into shards of stone. The second one was filled with energy that came out of all the cracks. Subai flew up into the sky, cutting through it with a beam. His face fell in half. Subai landed on pieces of rocks. Yuchan warned that the wreckage might reassemble the boss, but Subai didn't even give them the chance to fight again. All the rocks were frozen by the pieces of ice that fell from the sky. The squad was once again shocked with his skills that he forbade the boss to recover. The system congratulated their squad for completing the 14th floor in a record time of 30 hours. Subai stepped further into the portal, wanting to pass the last floor. Meanwhile, in the center of Rome, everyone was discussing Subai, who was still not on the class lists. They didn't expect that a new immortal swordsman would be born to them. Wang Zixi's squad passed through the city. They didn't expect anything different from Subai. The system once again announced to the world that Subai had closed the 15th floor in a record time of 6 hours. Zixi thought that he was already overdoing it. They had killed the boss on the 15th floor, and it was already time for Subai to leave. Yuchan decided that the Ling clan had received too much, so she wanted to give him compensation, which Subai didn't expect at all. The mages went through the portal, leaving the floor. Yuchan offered him whatever he wanted, and if it was gold, then 10,000 for each floor, and asked for 3 days to collect. He licked his lips at such a huge amount and asked them to contact if they want to break more records, and he will give them a discount. Yuchan was very happy, trying to book 30 floors in advance at once. Subai smiled awkwardly, knowing that he would already lose 30,000 for 15 floors if he made a discount, but he accepted it. Yuchan was already planning to mortgage the property to break records and arrange the clan's ascent. Subai made a condition that he only needed her. The girl blushed at his words, not understanding what he meant. She thought his admission was a bit harsh, but he wanted them to be the only ones in the squad. Yuchan didn't see it as a problem, and she's willing to give him all the responsibility without getting in the way. Subai prepared to leave, planning a meeting in 3 days. Inside Rome, he was reviewing the remaining quests. Then Subai decided to close the chain in Rome first and just pass the 3 days. He went to the board and picked up the quest. The man gave him another quest. Subai was going to take everything that came in his way. He came to the portal and wanted to go to the West Mine. He was quickly teleported away. He forgot to close his eyes, which made his eyes look terrified. Suddenly, Pei Lingshui threw him a friend request. He immediately rejected it, entering the mine. Lingshui couldn't believe that he had already rejected her for the 27th time. It turned out that he had added her to the blacklist. She was going to intercept him in the city of Rome.